Greetings, humans! Zbot1496 here with a review of the Grey's new fan edit of the Star Wars prequel trilogy. Haha! Humans have no access to this fan edit, nor can we share it with them, but Galactizens across the Milky Way have this extraordinary new version of the prequel trilogy to enjoy, just released on Zoggplex. Galactizens will already have guessed that we are referring to the Grey's much hyped AI-powered fan edit of the prequel trilogy released as Project AI99. Humans only know the Greys from their admittedly juvenile habit of inserting probes into the digestive exits of otherwise ignored humans, but if you could watch the Greys' hit podcast, you'd know they're also huge Star Wars fans. Now, the premise of their Project AI99 takes George Lucas's 3 prequel films, starting with Phantom Menace released in Earth year 1999, and tunes up all the weak points, as agreed upon by the Grey's Galactic podcast audience. The Greys use AI direction in the style of George Lucas as he was in 1977 for AI99, and AI Irvin Kershner from 1980 for AI02 fixing Attack of the Clones from 2002, and finally an AI Tony Gilroy from 2025 for AI05 fixing Revenge of the Sith from 2005. We hope that all makes sense. And even if not, let's just jump into it. Now, back in 1999, we were beyond thrilled to wait in line for hours in our human body form to watch The Phantom Menace on opening day in San Francisco. The Star Wars Fan Club ran a trivia contest to entertain the fans in line, and we are proud to share that we won a prize from that contest. Of course, it wasn't a fair competition, since we are an assembly of AI nanobots, and we vastly outclass any human on the subject of science fiction trivia. we are not bragging, we are just stating a fact. Now, don't get nervous about us saying we outclass you. We adore all you cute little primate humans and the creative places you put your fingers. That's something you totally own. Well, you and the Greys, of course. But, in a way, that's still on point here. Humans can be creative, but oversight is essential to highlight the best aspects of that creativity. Gary Kurtz, Marsha Lucas, and Irvin Kershner had seats at the table during the original trilogy and were able to trim down the odd bits and emphasize the outlier creative genius at the core of Star Wars. With the prequels, none of those tempering forces were present, and we got both the creative genius as well as all the odd bits that would have dropped to the cutting room floor. Seeing Phantom Menace, and then also Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, we were at once thrilled with the return to the vividly and plausibly created galaxy of Star Wars, and in creative new settings, and with a compelling plot revealing itself to us. But we were also thrown out of the experience by the aforementioned odd bits. To put it in terms of the data, let's apply our Star Wars rubric here to all 3 movies at once. A singular vision, 10. Excitement, 10. Originality, 10. Credibility, 2. A transporting quality, 5. Strong characters, 3. Groundbreaking effects, 10. An emotive score, 10. Tragic stakes, 10. Timeless storytelling, 5. Incremental evolution, 5. A transformational quality, 5. Now, across the galaxy, the response was similar. Everyone loved that the Star Wars galaxy was back on the big screen, but also everyone felt the whole thing came apart in three key ways. The first, most important factor is the characters. The films have a fantastic cast of talented actors, but the characterizations of Anakin Skywalker truly missed the mark, greatly impacting the credibility of the theme of the films, which is a mirror image of the original trilogy. In the originals, the strength of the individual to encourage empathy can overcome the technological might of terror. In the prequels, the guile of the individual to prey on weaknesses can overcome the power of the people. This is an incredibly powerful message for an artist to make, both at the turn of the millennium when right-wing movements were raising fears and invading countries, and for right now when they are doing the same. However, that message gets lost when the protagonist comes off as out of place, then whiny, then cheesy, and various combinations thereof. The second factor is the kidification of the story. The Star Wars trilogy appealed to the kid in all of us without presenting a single child on screen. The prequel trilogy presents several children on screen. Anakin himself in the first film, the younglings and Kid Boba Fett in the second, and the younglings again in the third. Lucas himself has stated that he wanted Anakin to be a child in the first film so the audience would bond with him and empathize with him throughout his fall. However, Lucas himself was able to show the growth of characters becoming adults in American Graffiti, and of course, with Luke Skywalker in Star Wars. So, this was not worth the cost of degrading the stakes of the film and franchise. Putting children in harm's way is a very jarring thing to present in entertainment, especially those that feature war, mass killing, in this case, frequent dismemberment. But, besides kids themselves being present, the other aspect here is the high degree of slapstick in the first film especially. This was shown infamously with Jar Jar Binks, but also with the goofy service droids, the goofy battle droids, and the stepping in poop, and the passing of gas. All of this degrades taking the film seriously, already a challenge for the space fantasy genre. But with the original trilogy, the original trilogy succeeded at it in spectacular fashion by not going there. The third key factor is the retconning of connections. Lucas's first retcon of establishing Vader's connection in Empire was received incredibly well, which clearly encouraged him to keep it going. He doubled down with a double connection for Leia in Jedi, which was less impactful, but still, interesting. But by the prequels, it was out of hand. Several fan-favorite characters returned with varying degrees of plausibility. Some are by necessity there for the story. Two are a storytelling conceit, but pretty much all of them had surreal interactions and relationships with other key characters that are never acknowledged further in the timeline. The two that cause the most absurd retconning are the droids, R2-D2 and C-3PO, who are extremely close to Anakin, one of whom is ostensibly made by Anakin as a childhood project, which is absurd on its face. This extreme retconning both undermines the credibility of the storytelling by presenting absurd coincidences in a vibrantly populated galaxy, but also leads to a large number of incongruities in watching the original trilogy again. Not to mention the memes that persist on human social media networks. So, with these three major flaws universally agreed upon across the galaxy, the Greys decided to create a fan edit that would address them. As per the universal standards of fan edits, their goal was to work with the original material to improve it. Their project AI99 is therefore not a restoration like the humans' own Project 4K77, but more of a fan fix, an attempt to correct or modify the original, like the humans' Project A34K, a repair of the effects and other subtle storytelling issues in Alien 3, which we recently reviewed. However, unlike those human fan edits, the Greys have access to much more advanced AI technology, which can ingest the storytelling talent of key human directors and their tempering colleagues, dial them to the correct period of peak creativity, and output a film that is mostly exactly the same, but with entirely new scenes created and augmented and stitched to match the original film. So, let's see what the Greys got up to. The first film up is Star Wars The Phantom Menace, the AI99 cut, featuring the AI sensibilities of the original Star Wars creative and production team, George Lucas, Marshall Lucas, and Gary Kurtz, as captured in 1977. But it's subtle. The entire plot happens the same way, and most scenes are the same. The changes are small, but make a big impact, which we'll first list out for clarity as follows. TC-14, the Silver Protocol droid that serves the Jedi on the droid control ship, is now voiced by Anthony Daniels. Qui-Gon captures him, telling Obi-Wan that, as a protocol droid, he can record the invasion in progress and use it as proof. Qui-Gon hoists the droid over his shoulder, and they fight the battle droids as before. The Neimoidians' Japanese accents are dialed back by 25%. The Jedi take TC-14 with them to the surface of Naboo. They meet Jar Jar on Naboo, but he is dialed back by 40% in terms of his tone, patois, behavior, and substance. The group proceeds as before, with background participation from TC-14 in diplomatic observer mode. As the group escapes Naboo with Queen Amidala, the droid that saves them is a red astromech named R4, who sounds exactly like R2-D2. When the group lands on Tatooine, Jar Jar does not step in poop. When they enter Watto's junk shop, Anakin is not a 9-year-old boy played by Jake Lloyd, but a teenager played by Leonardo DiCaprio, performing as he does in The Basketball Diaries. His banter with Padme is written and directed in the style of the banter from American Graffiti, between teens graduating from high school, contemplating the future. It isn't heavy with portent, but instead there's something quirky and earnest about Anakin, and there's a clear spark between them. All remaining appearances by Anakin are replaced by DiCaprio. He is still eager and curious, but also clearly intelligent, resourceful, and passionate. TC and R4 remain as part of Amidala's retinue, and do not become Anakin's droids. In the pod race scenes, Anakin's friends are aged up. The sequence with Jar Jar getting his hand caught in the engine and getting his tongue zapped is deleted. In the pod race hangar, the pack animal passing gas is deleted. The race commentator is dialed back 50%, with dialogue sounding more like a 1940s newsreel announcer than a contemporary sports commentator. Queen Amidala makes her case to the Senate and has TC-14 present the evidence, with his clear and direct narration. Bail Organa nods approvingly. However, the measure still gets bogged down in committee as in the original. Yoda still evaluates Anakin as too old to train, but only slightly so, since Jedi training starts at 15, when a being can consent to the choices they make in adopting the Jedi Order. Qui-Gon resolves to train Anakin anyway, as in the original. Mace Windu is more engaged in discussion as the deliberative partner to Yoda. He emphatically quotes Jedi texts as his response to Yoda's inverted philosophical statements. When liberating Naboo, Anakin hops into a fighter by his own choice and joins the fight in space with a different droid as his astromech. Both he and Jar Jar succeed, not by accident or slapstick, but through great piloting and inventiveness with the situation. Darth Maul trash talks Qui-Gon during battle and gloats over killing him with Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan aggressively fights back, but calmly responds that this delight in death is why the Sith will ultimately always fail. and that he takes no pleasure in what he must do, and then slices him in half, as in the original. And that's it. The second film is Star Wars Attack of the Clones, the AI02 cut, featuring the creative vision of the Empire Strikes Back team, Irvin Kershner, Leigh Brackett, Lawrence Kasdan, George Lucas, Marsha Lucas, and Gary Kurtz from 1980. Like with the first film, the entire plot happens almost exactly the same way again. The actual changes are as follows. Anakin, as played by Hayden Christensen, is replaced with Leonardo DiCaprio, playing a mid-20s Anakin, performing as he does in Titanic. All his dialogue and performance are improved with his courtship of Padme, friction with the Jedi Council, and engagement with Palpatine. They all land as credible and believable. Boba Fett is not played by Daniel Logan as a 10-year-old, but by Zac Efron as a 17-year-old, performing as he does in 17 again. R4 and TC remain on Tatooine as Anakin and Padme race to save Obi-Wan. The droid factory scene is deleted, as are any slapstick scenes involving the droids in the Geonosis battle. R4 and TC do appear again as witnesses to Anakin and Padme's wedding. And that's it for that one. The third film is Star Wars Revenge of the Sith AI05 cut, featuring the AI-generated creative capabilities of Tony Gilroy and the Andor writing and production team. The changes are: Anakin is played by Hayden Christensen, is replaced with Leonardo DiCaprio playing a late 20s Anakin, performing as he does in Inception. Again, all his dialogue and performance are improved with his fear and anger with Padme and Obi-Wan, his break with the Jedi Council, and joining with Palpatine. All of that lands as credible and believable. R2/R4 is not present in the battle above Coruscant. Chewbacca does not appear on Kashyyyk. Palpatine is dialed back 25% when he lets his mask down. When Obi-Wan tells Padme he fears that Anakin has gone to the dark side, she says that she now wishes she had been with him all along. Obi-Wan says that he felt it all along, but it was too late for them now. When Anakin slaughters all the Jedi in the temple, the younglings are all replaced with teenage Padawans. The previously deleted scene with Padme, Bail, and Mon Mothma creating the rebellion is restored. When Obi-Wan appears in the doorway of the shuttle on Mustafar, Anakin senses a flush of affection between Padme and Obi-Wan. And that is the last straw for him to attack both of them. They still argue about Anakin becoming a killer under the manipulation of Palpatine, and Anakin is still bent by the fear of Padme dying, but his now justified jealousy is the match that sets him off. After choking Padme, Anakin launches at Obi-Wan in full rage. Obi-Wan tries to calm him down by saying they never acted on it out of love for him. Anakin screams he never wanted their pity, and that sets off the no-holds-barred battle. The previously deleted scene of Yoda conjuring the Force ghost of Qui-Gon is restored. After Luke and Leia are born, Bail offers to take Leia. Yoda instructs Obi-Wan to watch over Luke while he himself goes into exile, all as before, but now Bail excuses himself to make arrangements. While alone, he instructs his tech team to also take Padme's 2 droids. He instructs them to change the droids' identities with new names and body panels, naming them R2-D2 and C-3PO, and still wipe the protocol droid's memory. And that's it. In terms of how it all lands, let's reapply the Star Wars rubric, shall we? A singular vision, 10. Excitement, 10. Credibility, 10. There we go. Originality, 10. A transporting quality, 10. Strong characters, 10. Groundbreaking effects, 10. An emotive score, 10. Tragic stakes, 10. Timeless storytelling, 10. Incremental evolution, 10. A transformational quality, 10. Put simply, the prequel trilogy goes from being a tragically ambitious overreach to an epic masterpiece that echoes the original Star Wars trilogy. The power of the theme, the characters, and the story are all preset by the original trilogy to start with. The central flaw of the prequels in their original form, namely the badly presented central character, ruins these films. Instead, we now have a charismatic actor presenting a character with great potential, behaving reasonably in a flawed world, like Hamlet, effectively conveying how and why he descends. His jealousy is now understandable because it's not paranoia, it is a legitimate perception, and, added all together, helps us, the audience, believe that lovers and friends can turn on each other. The trilogy becomes a genuine anti-hero story, playing out the theme of being the object of manipulation by the guile of an individual who wears down the moral and social values that protagonist previously held dear, all while that same antagonist is the most brilliantly realized villain in human cinema history, Chancellor Palpatine. He takes on everyone, takes advantage of everyone, and wins, outright wins on every level, cackling all the way to the throne of the galaxy. And it is magnificent. At the same time, Star Wars delivers its first up-close examination of how fascism grows under the complacent nose of a democracy, free of the laughable implausibility of the romance and the frequent physical slapstick comedy. The now serious message lands with full credibility and realism. Where Lucas intended social criticism to such an extent that he named the greedy Trade Federation official Newt Gunray after the human Republican proto-fascist politician Newt Gingrich, this instead got lost under the weight of the weird and sophomoric distractions the film also rolled out alongside that criticism. All these own goals are now gone. The most broadly appealing anti-fascist story in modern human storytelling now includes its prequel trilogy, matching perfectly with the tightly focused anti-fascist bookend of the stunning new Andor series. As a bonus, R2 and 3PO go from being implausible servants of both Anakin and Luke to actually both of them serving the plots of both trilogies. Now, R2 already got to prove his value as an astromech, repairing the Royal Starship's engine while under fire outside the ship, but now 3PO gets to prove his value as a protocol droid as well. Both Qui-Gon and Padme see 3PO's potential and demonstrate their own intelligence by putting him to good use. Bail sees how effective he is in the Senate and bundles him with Padme's R2 as the inherited droids that come with adopting Leia. Which also sets up why they're on the blockade runner with Leia at the beginning of Star Wars, more plausibly as part of Leia's retinue. Plus, their identity changes reconcile why Anakin, Obi-Wan, and even Yoda don't recognize the droids in Star Wars and Empire, despite them being relevant figures to key formative moments in their lives, and again becoming the focus of their galactic struggle in Star Wars. And finally, the removal of all kids from the movies allows their tone and dialogue to rise to the maturity level of mythology and not live at the maturity level of nursery rhymes. You just can't have poop jokes, kidified dialogue, and slapstick physical comedy scenes fit with historic and transformative stakes like invasion, political corruption, beheadings, and breaking the moral backbone of the hero. The removal lets Lucas shine by getting Lucas out of the way. With the Gray's AI Fanedit addressing these three main areas, as well as a collection of smaller scale issues, all of the prequel trilogy is now magnificent. All of it now makes sense. And it doesn't contort the original trilogy it is meant to lead into. And it doesn't insult the audience. And it delivers what Lucas came so close to, what we all hoped it would be, and now is. The tragedy that gives meaning and emotional weight to the mythology of Star Wars. Accordingly, we give the Greys AI99 project, fan edit of the Star Wars prequel trilogy, our highest retrospective rating. And so concludes this human version of our review. If you have feedback on it, please write in your own comments so that we can upload the galactic version to Zoggplex. So you see, you can expect more discussions and reviews of new theatrical movies, fan edits, streaming shows, and 4K home video releases, as we continue to engage with your human rectangular entertainment. So please watch, like, subscribe, and comment so that we can continue to have the human voice reflected in the cosmos. Until next time, farewell, humans.